So as we all know, Marvel Spider-Man 2 is coming out next year, and trust me when I tell you, this is a game that has me more excited than I've ever been for anything. I'm sure a lot of you guys are too, and I can't help but possibly wonder all the things they're gonna do to improve the gameplay and all the other things about the game. And this is gonna be the first video in a little series that I'm making of gameplay improvements and like new features that I think would give the game a big leap forward from the previous two games. Even though I think the first two games are amazing, and Marvel Spider-Man 1 is my favorite story game of all time, but that's besides the point. So let me get in the first area of improvement for this video, and that's the traversal and web swinging part of the game. So I made a video a little while back on this topic, which was my first video I ever uploaded on this channel. Not my best work, not my best video, but I did mention some features in that video I would like to reiterate in this video first, and that's the physics system. So I'm gonna start off with the web line physics. In the first two games, the web lines don't really have physics, and this is also true for like the player physics as well. I think the entire physics system as a whole needs to just feel more realistic. For example, I'll show some weird gameplay moments. Take this clip here where you can see this web line like going through the building. It like phases through it as I'm trying to corner it, or when I swing under this light post, the web just goes through it. If they make the web lines themselves have physics, then we can do things like this. And it would also make weird and clunky things like this just not happen. I want them to make it to where like web lines can like twist and bend so that movement doesn't feel as stiff. I'm gonna show some clips from the Amazing Spider-Man movies to show more visually what I mean with like the web lines. As you're watching these clips, I want you to really like pay attention to how his body like twists and turns, and like how the web lines aren't so stiff. You can really see how the web lines like twist and bend, and they feel sort of like bouncy and elastic compared to like in the game, where the web lines aren't stiff when you first shoot them, but they do feel as though they are. And they also just don't bend and like twist and feel like elastic and bouncy compared to like how it looks and feels when you watch the TASM movies. And that's the same thing for his body physics. They are kind of fluid, like some of the animations, but some of them are also stiff. And if they make all these animations just like come together so fluidly, it would make the swinging feel like a lot more realistic, and it would just also just make me feel like way more immersed into the game. I always feel as though I can swing around in pretty much any direction I want when I'm like swinging from a web line. And this is good sometimes, except for like when I have a web line attached to a weird point and I can swing in a weird direction that doesn't really feel realistic. Like take this clip here for example. As you can see in these clips, I'm basically just swinging in like a direction that I really should not be able to swing in. So to counteract this, I will now bring up my next feature that I think they should implement, and that's manual web placements, where they can really learn and like take from this. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Fortnite, they could learn from Fortnite. And if you played with the web shooters they had when they had them in the game, I don't remember when it was that they had them in the game. I just remember installing the game so that I could play with them, and they were fun as shit. But Insomniac could do this in their own way. Now, for example, like when you press L2, it brings up your little crosshair that lets you aim your point launch or your gadgets or whatever. But if they can make it to where you have like a little crosshair when you're swinging around so that you can choose where you place the point of the web that you swing from, I don't know how to describe it, but you can kind of see it on the screen. And this is something that would make the web swinging a lot more engaging and a lot more fun. But I can understand how some people may not want this, so they could just make it an option to turn it on and off in the settings. And there's also a feature that I heard some YouTuber talking about when he was also talking about the physics system in the web swinging. I'm sorry I don't remember the name, but he was talking about how there was actually a rumor where it would have 3 types of web swinging mode, being a realistic mode, which would be for players like me who like more of a challenge when they're swinging around and want more of a physics-based system. Also an arcade mode for other people who like, I actually don't know what it was like. I don't remember what he said in the video, but I think it was just for people who like to mindlessly swing around even more. And then there was the hybrid system, which is similar to the first 2 games swinging physics systems. And this is something that's good for all players. And even if they can't accomplish this through like just the game settings, then I feel as though they should make separate install files before you like actually download the game to pick the physics system that you want, if that makes sense to you guys. Another example of the physics system that I don't really like is how the repel or like anti-magnetic feel you get when you're swinging close to like the top of a building or swinging close to the street, because this is another thing that makes the physics system just feel unrealistic. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll show some clips of this right now. Now to counteract this, they can make it so that you can climb up your web line while you're swinging and virtually just implement some type of mechanic that lets you do everything you see in this cutscene. They could also implement what they did in Spider-Man 2 on the PS2, where it made you run along the ground if you didn't have enough air below you when you're swinging. I would love to see it make a return, because it just makes the swinging feel more realistic, and it makes it like feel and look like how it does in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. The next area of the traversal that they can improve upon is the parkour and wall crawling system. To improve upon the parkour, there's a couple things they can do. First would be to make it feel less automated. All you really have to do in the first 2 games is just hold R2 and it just does everything for you. And like it looks cool sometimes, even though it's like pretty slow at moments. If they could add things like a slide mechanic like from the Arkham games, and even take it a step further and use their own own traversal system from Sunset Overdrive and let us like grind across metal bars and other parts or like areas of the map. And they can also add some new animations that you yourself can manually do rather than just holding R2. And they also need more of a variety in parkour animations because there's not really that many. And I would also love to see like more interior building moments, like where you're inside a building and you're parkouring along shit. For the wall crawling improvements, I would like to see some better animations. I would like to make it less clunky because it kind of just feels really snappy when you're like changing and crawling around the walls. They can give us better camera angles in certain positions and remove the uninterruptible animations you get when transitioning between different parts of the walls. And they also need to get rid of the uninterruptible animations for other moments, like in the combat when it makes you like freeze for a slight second whenever you dodge. Kind of hard to tell in the clips that I'm showing, but like if you played the game, you know it kind of just makes you sit there for a second after you perform a dodge. And it also just like makes you sit there for a second whenever you like web onto a wall. And removing these uninterruptible animations just makes the game a lot more smooth. Like take Uncharted for example, how you can like shoot your gun in the air and keep your momentum and like dodge and roll smoothly with no automated animations, so it just makes the game feel like more fluid. And to add on to this is weather impact. Now you might be confused by this, but let me explain it. I would love for like when it's raining for like some parts of buildings to be like slippery, like say you're running on the side of a glass window and it's like wet from the rain, you get like a little animation where you slip for a second, or like I was saying with the parkour where you like grind across a metal pole, you like slip and bust your ass or something. Or if it's like windy in the game, you feel that wind resistance when you're web swinging, and they can make like the controller like rumble, like how you feel when you're web swinging already. The PS5 controller is like haptic feedback it has. The next thing is a more advanced air trick system, and this is something I got from Caleb Jabloniki. I'm sorry if I butchered his name. And basically what he was talking about in his video in the web swinging air trick system, he was saying how Insomniac could take a page out of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, because those games have a noticeable skill gap in between a player that is like new and not that good from a player who's more advanced with the system and can perform more tricks and stuff. And this is another thing Insomniac could do to make you like have a reason to keep playing the game even after you 100% it, because even though I still play the game a good bit, it does kind of get boring after a while just swinging. And if they implemented a more advanced web swinging and air trick system, it would make players constantly find new ways to string new moves together. And they also need a larger variety of air tricks. Now I know Miles Morales did improve a lot with the air trick system. They gave us a lot more tricks to do from the first game, but I want to see even more tricks than that. And they could also make some tricks more advanced with like a certain set of button combos to perform moves that only string together the better you get at playing the web swinging system. Because let's face it, we all know it doesn't take that long to get good at the web swinging system in the first two games. And things like this just give you a great incentive to keep playing the game even after you beat it to improve your web swinging skill. Now I'm going to start listing features that don't really need much of an explanation. So first I want to see them implement the ability to do air tricks while you're swinging from your web line, not just when you're floating through the air like how we already have in the first two games. Next I want to have the ability, like I mentioned earlier, to run along the ground with your web line still in your hand, or they could also do it so when you're running along the side of a building like in this clip from Far From Home. Next I would like to see the slingshot mechanic return from Spider-Man 3 and the TASM games. Next, and even though I already know that they said they're going to be improving the web swinging speed, I think they only said that they're going to be improving it by like a multiple of 1.8 times, but I think that they should up the speed even more. And there's a mod recently that came out for the PC port of the first game that lets you swing faster, and trust me when I tell you, this makes the game feel so much more fun. And if they could bring the speed up to at least 2 times or 2.5 times speed from the first two games, that would be amazing. Next would be two-handed web swinging. They actually showed this in a trailer from E3 before they released the first game, and I don't know why this wasn't implemented because it's such a cool feature. Next is for them to make it so that you can keep your momentum while using gadgets in the air. Most of you know that when you're swinging or moving around in the air and you like shoot your web shooters, it kind of just makes you float there in the air for a second. And if they let you keep your momentum when you're using gadgets in the air, similar to how I was talking about with Uncharted earlier, how you can just shoot your gun in the air and like roll across the ground and the animations flow smoothly with each other. Next is more animations for the web zip, and also make them more fluid because they can be kind of stiff at times in the game. Also, you would get like the two-handed web zip like once in a blue moon. The next thing I want to see is the ability to shoot a new web line while still having your previous one in your hand, not just when you like let the previous web line go, similar to like this clip from TASM 2. And this last thing kind of needs a little explanation, and that's the ability to dodge while swinging from your webs. For an example of this, I'll show a couple clips.
He's the dick, Willie!
Now they did improve the air dodging a lot from Miles Morales to the first game, and they made it much smoother when transitioning from dodges back into your web swing. And I want to keep what they implemented in Miles Morales, while also giving us the ability to dodge with your web line still in your hand. But yeah, so if you guys like this video, I'm gonna be making a couple more, talking about like free roam things, like miscellaneous things, combat improvements, and other stuff. So if you want to hear some other ideas, you know, just like subscribe and wait for the next video. And yeah.